The answers are not in the back. That's Charlie Brown. And here's something to think about. Regularly writing down your thoughts, ideas, and lessons learned can boost your feelings of contentment. Very important to use a notebook. I highly recommend this. To use a cheapy Dollar Tree notebook to track what you're learning, to track the skills you currently have, and to track what you need to do in addition to what you already know. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth, okay? Nothing is permanent. I want you, as you look at going into this career, or maybe you've just landed your first job, but you're looking at landing your first job, that you don't look at that necessarily, or you don't get scared that that may not be a permanent position, okay? It may be, and more than likely will be just the beginning position where you gain a lot of legal knowledge, and then maybe a year or two down the road, then you give yourself a raise and move on to your second job. It's exactly what I did. In fact, it was more like 7 months in the first job. It just worked out that way. I recommend staying in the first job at least a year. It looks better on your resume. But the goal is to absorb as much as you can and write it down. Every single technical skill you already know, and additional skills you learn on the job, and also legal knowledge that you've gained, because you're going to have to discuss it in an interview, right, in the future. So, and you'll lose track if you don't do that. And so your legal knowledge is really knowledge that you can trade off on for higher pay. And that's worth everything, right? There's a plan and a purpose in the works for you right now. And the best thing is to do that homework that I talk about a lot in my videos, that investigation into areas of law. What do paralegals do in those areas of law? If you're not on my Facebook page, Paralegal Coffee Talk, I would highly recommend you go over there. I did a similar video over there today, but there are really cool graphics and quotes that I put up, and also some other things that you'll be interested in that will do nothing but bring your knowledge level up. So, number one, nothing is permanent. Number two, you're either living by accident or on purpose. There is a purpose for your life. So let's look at, and it doesn't mean all of that knowledge about that, about what area of law should I go into, that it's not going to be dropped in your lap. You have to go search out that information. So what I highly recommend is using Google as your BFF and doing that research, and also looking for used books written for paralegals, not for attorneys, but for paralegals. It could be personal injury law for paralegals, estate planning law for paralegals, contract law for paralegals, and on and on and on, so that you know what the paralegal will be expected to do. Can't get better than that. You're not going to be operating from the perspective of an attorney, but from the perspective of working for the attorney as a paralegal. Remember that. When you go on interviews, the single most important thing that you have to explain and communicate is what you're going to do to help that attorney. Okay? What are you going to do every day to help that attorney? They're not going to train you in that. Very few places that do that, even if they say it in the ad. That's just to entice you to apply, believe me. So, very few, okay? So, number two, you're either living on purpose or by accident. But on the other jobs that don't say required, go ahead and apply. But you better say what you know how to do. They don't read between the lines and they don't guess. They want it laid out in black and white for them. Number 3, fear does not necessarily mean that you should stop. You might have had a bad interview. You might have had a bad experience in a workplace that has nothing to do with legal, and now you're afraid. I was there. When I broke into legal, I had had a terrible experience in a corporation in Oklahoma, horrible place to work. And I just had to go for it and I went into a different career entirely. But I could have let it stop me. You can't. It was traumatic. This place was terrible, but I've never worked in a place since that was even close to that. So don't procrastinate and think, well, you're just feeling lazy today. No, that's rooted in fear. So don't let fear rule you. Fear will accompany you, but it shouldn't rule you, okay? Remember that when you're starting out, sacrifices have to be made. It might be in distance that you have to drive, or it might be in salary. I never quote salary. That's impossible to do. So, but I can assure you, you'll be sacrificing with salary. I sure had to. I drove a used clunker car that was on its last legs, and was able to buy a new car 3 years or so down the road, but that car served me well until I could afford to buy a new car that was better on gas than my gas guzzler car. I had to look at the sacrifice I had to make in time that it took me to get to work every day. It took me 45 minutes. I had to go to a bigger city than my little town of 15,000, and in Oklahoma, where I started out. So you may have to make those sacrifices too. Less will have to be more, and the thing is, you're going to absorb all that legal knowledge, and that is worth gold to you. That's what's worth gold. And then you can trade up to a higher salary later. And it might just be a year away, 2 years away, that you get to bump your salary up, not at the law firm you start out in. I could almost promise you that. All right, so number 5 is the final one. The power to change your life is in the choices you make. So you have to make a choice that, okay, I'm not going to procrastinate. What does that take? That takes you saying, within the next 24 to 48 hours, I'm going to do something different than what I've been doing. I'm not going to sit on the couch and just binge watching whatever it is, Netflix. I'm going to take that time, a chunk of time, and dedicate it every day to doing stuff that will propel me forward instead of being consumed with doubt, fear, fear of rejection, that type of thing. And stop telling yourself that everybody wants experience when you need to just apply, instead of telling yourself that constantly, okay? There are attorneys ready to hire you, but you have to tell them what you know how to do in order to help them, okay? So which one of these is resonating with you, is hitting that button right now? That was like, ouch, oh gosh, that's me. Certainly for me, procrastination is something I battle all the time. But once I get into that rhythm of doing something every day or every other day, then I'm on track. And that will happen for you too if you get into a rhythm. We can't procrastinate at work when we're working in the legal field, because the client and the attorney are wanting us to get things done. And we have to have ways to get that done. So ask yourself, if the attorney wants me to tell him or her what I know how to do, can I do it? If not, you have to do it like boom and find that out. And then finally, don't forget to go to my website, paralegalcoffeetalk.com, and look at the top of the website and look for the 19 alternative paralegal careers list and or the free chapter of my book, Legal Break-In. It'll ask you to sign up to my hub. That's so that you have access to a bunch of other freebies. Okay, so I put them all in a hub so it's easier than having multiple sign-ups. Okay, feel free to sign up for that hub. It is worth it. And look through everything that's in there. There are really good videos in there about especially one about the 4, but really 5 hot areas of law that are hot because of the pandemic. Okay, and last but not least, at the website, on the website, paralegalcoffeetalk.com, you will see Paralegal Inner Circle class. I invite you to join us. Take a look at that. Lots of info there. So just take a look around the website. Come over to the Facebook page if you feel like it, and hang out with us there. And you can ask questions there or here. Feel free to make comments below. And glad you were here with me live today. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And again, feel free to ask questions and I will actually answer you. So have a great Tuesday night, and I will talk to you in the next live. Bye.